before we kind of jump into the business and what the kind of business does, would you be happy to share a bit about your backstory? Where are you from originally, and how did you end up almost starting your own company?
Yeah. Make a long story short, I'm because I'm 35 already, so I'm not gonna. I was born in a little town upstate New York, of Belgian parents. There's nothing American about me, apart from where I was born. We moved back when I was, I think, about 8 months or something. We lived in different places, mainly in Belgium. Belgium, there's a part that speaks Flemish. That's
Hmm.
where my family is from. But we also lived in the part that speaks French, and we moved a bit back and forth. My dad used to work at Philips, which is a big Dutch.
Yep.
Well, everybody knows Philips, I guess. And I grew up most of my life like just about half an hour of the headquarters of Philips, but in Belgium, because the headquarters of Philips is just across the border. My mom is an architect. My dad is an engineer, but always used to lead research organizations all his life. Now he's responsible for the open manufacturing campus in Turnhout, but whatever. An old Philips site that is now opened up to small companies for them to gear up their production and all that.
Hmm.
And I always liked building stuff.
Hmm.
That was always sort of my passion, and bringing that to people. So I was brought up in a way that I was made to be an engineer. like Jeroen, you're going to be an engineer. But I never really felt like the pure engineering job was something for me.
See,
Like
this is interesting because I know we don't necessarily know each other that well,
Mhm.
but I'm also a mechanical engineer. And when I was at university and I went to a place called Sheffield in England, that I was always very good at the leadership, management, creative business side. But I also knew that the technical side of being an engineer wasn't really for me. So I
Mhm.
empathize, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I saw that you're. I'm to place me as an engineer. For engineers, I'm an electrotechnical engineer, and in my minor I did business management because I knew from the start I want to. When I was 15, 16, I basically I built websites for people. I had a little secondhand cell phone business. I was always more attracted by the business side and the engineering side. Although the engineering side, I think it's super helpful if you want to understand all the technicalities of
Mhm.
stuff. And it does help me now that I'm in software, because I, for instance, had courses like databases and stuff, which is super helpful now. But still, in my master's, in the end, I did biomedical engineering
Okay.
because that felt very impactful, and I could also learn new stuff. I had a lot of medical courses as well. But then when I started looking for jobs, I didn't really find anything that clicked. At some point, I remember I was at a medical 3D printing company, and I was there for a job that was sort of like product manager, but product manager on the very technical end.
Okay.
And I'm like, I would like to do something more with customers. So they said, that's project manager. Well, we can have a look. And then I did a little test. I think I stayed for an hour longer. They made me do a test, and they decided I was not a good project manager. And it was that evening I was so frustrated that I used the credit card of a friend, and we paid for a test for business school. And I ended up going 1 year to Vlerick business school in the Benelux. And I did a master in general management there, which then sort of enabled me to switch over from biomedical engineering to marketing and pharma, which
Okay.
seems like a funny switch.
But the thing is,
But
if I can jump in on that point,
mhm.
is that I think most people have a skill set, but you might be inherently good with people, and you always have been. And yes, you went on a technical route, which taught you a lot of skills. And one of the things that I find and I get told is that almost because of my engineering background, I'm very good at understanding information, which is obviously good for business, but then kind of
Mhm.
distilling it down to make it simple. So there's a lot of skills. And then I guess what you've done is just transfer those skills, yes, via a course, but into a new area. But you probably
Yeah.
always had it inherently in you, to kind of go that route.
Yeah. No, I do agree. Engineering is very much about seeing something complex and then trying to reduce it to
First
to
principles.
yeah, principles. A bit less than perhaps physics or so,
Yeah.
where physics is very much theoretical there. Engineering does that in real life, you could say, and build something from there, which is what connects to, I think, what we both do. It's building stuff and making it simple and understandable for people, making systems, making experiences, this kind of stuff.
So can I ask, did you have the itch or the desire to start the business before you went to business school, or did you
Yeah.
discover that passion like during the course?
No, I already had that passion when I was like building these websites and selling secondhand cell phones, and I always saw myself growing something. And business school was for me the way to get more onto that path. Although when I started business school, I remember I sold it to the admissions board, something like, I want to be a CTO at a big company, or something like that. But during business school, again, I rediscovered that I wanted to start a company. Now,
Mhm.
why did I then end up in marketing and pharma after that? Is because I figured, like, I don't have the experience yet. Maybe if I join a big company, um, put a few products in the market, be responsible for that, I will get how that all works. Um, Now, that was a very disappointing experience in the end, because that was not at all what I did. I didn't have a lot of responsibility in that respect. Like, I was just a cog in a machine, making brochures and telling salespeople how to use these brochures and stuff like that. I didn't really put something in the market, but it was a good first step towards what I then did afterwards. So I
But
don't
I think that's a really
regret it.
important step is that it's often in the bad jobs that you really learn what your passions are and what drives you to almost put you on the right path. So often it's never a bad thing to have jobs which aren't right for you because at least you know what not to follow.
Yeah,
So then how did do you want to tell people about Salesflare?
yeah. I'll first, maybe still the last, to connect everything. The job I did after that marketing and pharma job, I was responsible for helping pharma companies set up digital in all kinds of ways. It went from, in the beginning, it was a lot of building websites. In the end, we were selling full, like we called it, multi-channel marketing campaigns, where we basically replaced the sales force with a whole lot of digital touches. Because nowadays doctors, they don't really like feel like they need sales representatives in their waiting room anymore. They can read what they want on the internet,
Yep.
and also the pharma industry has been sending way too many to them. So we helped pharma companies sort of make that shift. And it was there that I also, like you said, I had a lot of experiences in different companies, feeling what I liked and what I didn't like in companies. In some companies, in two, I worked also on site part time to help them make a digital transformation. And I remember in one of them, I absolutely felt horrible because of the culture in the company. So that also taught me a lot about how when I start a business, and in the end, how I want that culture to function. Now, to bridge to Salesflare, what you asked. So in my previous job, I worked a lot with Salesforce. I used that in projects with customers, but I also had to use it myself to keep track of,
Mhm.
like, what opportunities do we have in the pipeline with which companies and all that. Now, when I started using Salesforce, I imagined it to be that system in which I would, like, keep track of everything. Like, I would manage my sales pipeline, and I really tried to use it for that reason. But I just didn't manage. It's very clunky. It's a lot of data, but it doesn't feel like it's built. For instance, I was using Wunderlist on the one end, which
Mhm.
is now Microsoft To Do, which is a very simple, beautiful task app. And then I came to Salesforce, and they made this forms where I had to fill out completely, make the task, and then when I completed it, it said, "Please make another task," stuff like that. And I was like, oh, how do people work with this? And actually, in general, this was something I noticed. None of my colleagues use it for that reason. We were all purely using it for management reporting reasons. And I felt that was a huge missed opportunity. And I didn't do anything with that insight for a few years until with my co-founder now, we went to a conference in Vegas. It was a business intelligence software company. We had a lot of leads for our software, and we tried to manage that. We tried to build a system, and we tried different CRM systems because, well, that's what they're for, right? And we figured that all of these systems failed. They failed for us because not because it was not nice software or something, but just because the software was dependent on us, and the software was expecting us to be some sort of uh, perfect data input robots. We would like input every single thing that we did minutiously in the system, and then we would find it all back there after our hard work. That didn't happen, never. And even if you drop discipline or the quality or whatever, just a little bit, then it started failing because you couldn't rely on the data anymore.
It's the whole garbage in, garbage out. And
Yeah.
just knowing a lot of, I'm a salesman myself, I guess
Mm-hmm.
most entrepreneurs are, but actually a lot of people don't like reporting and filling in systems. So I completely understand exactly where you're coming from. I think it's very true in the UK and with people that I kind of know as well.
Yeah. So what we then saw is that it is even weirder, because actually what we're doing is we're going in one system, like I'm sending an email to you, and I'm going into the other system called the CRM system, and I'm saying, oh, well, I just send an email to Steve, and then I see that you reply back to me, and I'm like, oh, there's an email signature of Steve. Oh, it has his phone number. I'll take that phone
Yeah.
number and put it in the CRM. So it feels like there's data in this system, and then there's this other system that I use next to it, and somehow there's no connection, there's no intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing. So we saw this system that basically sits on top of all the data that already exists in your mailbox, in your calendar, in your phone, social media, company databases, email and web tracking, and just automatically pulls that data together, offers it to you, and makes that you get the information and can curate it, because you might not want everything in your CRM.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say, okay, yeah, I want to create this company. It automatically says, oh, it seems like you know that person and that person and that person. By the way, we already got the information about these people here. Which ones do you want to add? I say this one, this one, this one.
Mm-hmm.
This one I don't want to add. The timeline automatically fills up because we see that in your inbox, your calendar, your phone. And like that, the system keeps track of stuff for you, rather than you having to do that very manual thing. So and that way we can then actually make sure that CRMs fulfill their purpose,
Yeah.
which is helping you follow up your pipeline perfectly, not disappointing any customers along the way, making the maximum amount of revenue that you can make from the leads you get. And then everything else, like management reporting and stuff, just flows from there, as long as you have a tool that helps you sell.
Mm-hmm. No,
There's a lot of benefits that come from there,
I
because if
think,
salespeople don't do it,
yeah.
everything falls apart.
And because what I was going to say is that it gives more time for the salesman to sell. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
saves them the back office stuff, which historically they don't like to do. That, you know, if you ask most salespeople what part of their job do they enjoy the least, and it would be the admin, the reporting, etc. But the bigger the machine, the bigger the business, the more cogs you have spinning, that it gets more difficult to manage, and that's where a CRM really kind of comes in.